The champ is here, Illini fans. Illinois wins their first Big Ten regular season championship since 2005 with a 74-72 victory over the Iowa Hawkeyes on Sunday night. And Inside the Arc is here to break it down. I am Alec Bussey, joined by Brandon Simberg. As always, Sim, neither one of us picked it before the year. We kind of doubted it multiple times throughout the regular season. End of the week, we're kind of thinking this doesn't look like it's very likely with Nebraska needing to go to the Kohl Center and beat the Badgers. But amongst all those odds, the Illinois Fighting Illini are Big Ten regular season champions.
Yeah, I mean, what a crazy, just from day one till the end, just like you didn't think they had any shot at doing it. Then they were kind of in the lead, or like they were hanging around. Like every time if like they lost a game, Purdue would lose, or Michigan State would lose, or Wisconsin would lose, you'd be right back in it. They controlled their own destiny, like 10 days ago, and they just had like a home game against Ohio State and Michigan. You're like, oh, they control their own destiny. Nope, squandered that opportunity. Wisconsin with the improbable win at home against Purdue, improbable given the way they won the game, and you're just like, it's over. Like you need Nebraska. Bryce McGowan isn't even playing. It's over.
Trey McGowan gets ejected for a flagrant 2 foul 18 minutes in or 2 minutes into the second half.
He did knock out Johnny Davis too. So like I think that's a trade Nebraska probably takes. But like still, Nebraska gets an early lead. You have some hope. Wisconsin like wakes up from their hangover, takes the lead. They're up a lot. Like you think it's over. And then Illinois got their opportunity, was down 15 to Iowa. I did not feel, even with the run they made before the half, like, and we'll talk a little bit about the game, I didn't think they were going to win that game. I just didn't think they were going to do it. Like, and then finally, like the second half, they get a lead, and like, and I think it hit me with like 5 minutes left the second half. I'm like, oh shit, like, look at me, the Big Ten champs, and they pulled it out.
Yeah, I remember kind of looking up at the scoreboard in the second half with like 4 minutes or 3 minutes left and thinking, holy cow, Illinois like 4 minutes away from, it was at the under 4 media timeout. And I remember thinking, Illinois is 4 minutes away from a Big Ten championship. Like, how is this possible with everything they've been through? Kofi Cockburn missing games at the beginning of the season. Obviously, that doesn't factor into, the Big Ten, but he misses 1 or 2 games during the Big Ten season with a concussion that he suffers. Andre Curbelo misses 2 months. He was supposed to be your potential All-American point guard. You lose Jacob Grandison for this last game of the regular season against an Iowa team that's came in winning 8 of 9. They end the regular season winning 8 of 10. That's not a game you're supposed to win when all of those things happen. You're down 15, like you said, all of those things considered. Illinois found a way to do it. And I feel like that kind of is maybe the theme of this team. It's just the resolve, their willingness to not fight, their desire to just keep going. And I think they get that from the 3 people in that locker room who I think this means the most to: Brad Underwood, Trent Frazier, and DeMonte Williams.
Yeah, it speaks to who those guys are and their resiliency and their toughness. And then I think, I'm not shocked they came out slow, because I think it was a super emotional day with it being senior day. Like, I think the game was going to be emotional anyway, whether this game was for the Big Ten title or not. With it being senior day, you had the nice moments for DeMonte Williams, Trent Frazier, even Kofi Cockburn, who, I mean, I thought it was kind of silly we did senior day for him, but because I think he'd easily come back next year. So that was a little silly. But then, Jacob Grandison and Alfonso Plummer, who haven't been with the program as long, like, it was emotional beforehand. Shots weren't fall, like they were hitting everything early, whether it was Tony Perkins or Peyton Sanford. Chris Murray got some good looks. Like, it just felt like nothing was going their way, and they responded. Alec, I want to ask you, as someone who has covered, this is only my second year really being around the Illinois basketball program. Didn't really follow them as closely as you did growing up. Like, to be there for that moment, like, what did that mean as someone who's been around the team and followed them for as many years as you have?
Yeah, I mean, growing up an Illinois fan, I feel like I do a really good job of hiding that on here. And in my work with rivals, that's something that I try to make a good point of just being objective when covering the team. But to see them do that for the first time since 2005, not something that I remember them doing. Like, I know that they did it, but I don't remember them doing it. I couldn't even tell you who Illinois beat, and then they celebrated on the court in 2005 to win the Big Ten. Like I have no clue who they did that against. I don't even know who they beat in the Big Ten tournament championship that year either. But to be here for that, to see the reaction from the students, to see everyone run onto the floor, to see Brad Underwood jump in the arms of his assistant coaches and have players just jump in each other's arms. It almost felt like a dream. Like it almost felt like if you were going to write a perfect ending to a movie, that's how you would write it on senior day against one of your 2-3 biggest rivals of the last 2-3 years, in a game where you go down 15, where the team that's been the worst team in the Big Ten since the first game of the year has to be a team that has been one of the 2-3 best teams in the Big Ten the entire year in Wisconsin. Like all of these things coming together on the last day of the regular season, that's not supposed to happen. That's not how this works. And for whatever reason, it just worked for Illinois on Sunday night against Iowa. And it just felt like a dream. And it's weird because I feel like I kind of just blacked out and don't remember it all, right? Like I was working while still kind of like celebrating in my head, but also being like, I need to like go get pictures. I need to get video. But my parents and my aunt and uncle are at this game and the seats that they're always in. And I run up and like give them a hug and say like, we did it. And then go up even higher and get a picture of the entire court with every fan in the stadium on the court. And then I'm going back down and getting more pictures and video. And it just feels like it's not real. Like I've seen a lot of crazy sports things in my life. I saw the 2011 Cardinals game 6 home run by David Freese. I saw them win 2 nights later in game 7 of the World Series. And I don't remember that very much either. Like I was in the stadium for that. You just black out for these kind of moments. And I kind of did the same thing Sunday night. And I'm sure you may have done the same thing, being a student, being able to experience it, kind of having a connection to the program that maybe you haven't had in the past. Like it was just a really cool thing to experience with everyone coming down onto the floor.
Yeah, in my 4 years of college, I mean, you got to, I think Illinois' only other court sore the past 4 years was the Michigan State game when Iowa hit the game winner our freshman year. So that's like 2018, 2019. I had never experienced a court storm. Like Maryland was ranked the 2 years I was there and was favored in a lot of games and never like won a huge home game. So I never got to experience a court storm as a college student. And obviously last year there were no fans.
Yeah.
So like I could sense it was coming and I could have gotten there pretty quick. And in hindsight, like I wish I did.
With Geico, we can
I
easily
feel-
bundle home and car.
What did I say about the ad blocker? You got to get the ad blocker.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I had never experienced a court storming before. And so like I was kind of behind Chris Murray as he missed his shot, which I thought was going to go in. It looked pretty good. They got a good look that they wanted.
That was right in front of you. You have to tell people where you were sitting for it.
Yeah, I was courtside. And I was literally right behind Chris Murray, like where he missed the shot. If you go back and if you watch it, you see some guy in a black sweatshirt, like right behind him. Like I put my head around to like get a look, get a good angle. It missed. And I put my fist up as Trent Frazier ran down the court with the ball. So like I could have gotten to him first, but like I didn't want to be stuck in the middle and like trampled and like lose my phone or my wallet or anything. So I kind of let everyone like go in first. I took a video of it and then I just joined in from the side. And then yeah, from there, like, God, what a cool experience. Like you just have all these, like, you see all these students, and kids, just kind of flocking around the court. The players like kind of were spread out around the court. So all of a sudden it's like you're bumping into Kofi or you're bumping into Chester Frazier. You're telling everyone congratulations. Then they get their t-shirts, they cut down the nets. I thought when Coach Underwood spoke into the microphone, like that was super powerful and super cool. And he did a great job himself in the moment. Like he's a guy who's kind of built for that moment and he took it all in and he did a really great job. And it's just, yeah, like I think definitely like the term blacked out, like it just it felt like a dream and it felt like so weird to be in, and reflecting on it, it was a crazy experience. I'm just glad we both got to experience it.
Yeah, and it might have been a Sunday, but I like to think there was probably a lot of Illinois fans in the Champaign-Urbana area or around the world that did blackout for other reasons last night. So, and we're recording this on Monday. So maybe that's why they blacked out for other reasons that don't need to be said. But let's kind of just dive into the game a little bit if we're okay doing that. Illinois comes out slow. They don't shoot the ball very well in the first half. At one point, I think I sent you a text and I said, if Illinois is going to win this game, they're going to have to start making shots because they were really just struggling to make shots. And what Iowa has done forever under Fran McCaffrey is make a lot of tough shots, especially the two Murray brothers did a great job of that. But let's talk about friend of the program, the stan of the program, Coleman Hawkins, having the game of his life on Sunday against Iowa. I mean, guarding the potential Big Ten player of the year. We'll talk about this a little bit later. In Keegan Murray. Murray finishes with 22 points, with 7 of 22 from the field. I forget what Isaac Trotter shared on social media about what exactly his numbers were when Coleman Hawkins was guarding him, but it was incredible. I want to say it was like 3 of 12 or something from the field. So give Coleman Hawkins all the due in the world for the way he defended Keegan Murray. He plays a career high, I think 37 minutes, 38 minutes, something like that. I think that has to be a career high for Coleman at this point. Also has 9 points, 11 rebounds, which is incredible. Brad Underwood told him before the game that they were going to need at least 12 to win. I guess Brad was wrong. But just an incredible game from Coleman Hawkins. And I don't know if there's a play that maybe defines the transformation of Coleman Hawkins' season better than the play within the last 2 minutes when Kofi blocks a Keegan Murray post-up attempt on Coleman as Coleman is defending it really well. And Kofi comes over and blocks it. And Coleman and Keegan Murray are fighting for the ball together. And Coleman rips it right from Keegan Murray's grasp for a jump ball. And it's Illinois' ball. I don't know if there's a play that defines Coleman Hawkins and his energy plays, his winning plays, his effort, his impact, all of those things put together in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is and was the guy I was so high on and imagined he could be. And the piece that Illinois was missing, like when he wasn't playing much against Maryland and Dante Scott was killing them because they didn't have anybody to guard fours. This is the guy I thought he could be. And he just made the hustle plays, the extra effort plays. He did miss a wide open dunk. Like those 2 points.
Which I'm sure he's getting flack for in the locker room still.
But he had 2 blocks and he made things difficult on Murray with his length. Murray was able to get a step on him and get some angles, but his length, he uses his length to recover. And it is the guy that Illinois needs because they're just going to run whether or not I'm not attacking this Jacob Grandis. Thing doesn't look great to me.
Being in a sling is concerning.
The fact that he was in a sling for a sprain and just shoulder things are like weird and that like
it's a big joint. It's a big joint and there's big muscle groups in there.
Yeah, so that's pretty concerning. So they're definitely going to need him. And he might have been Illinois' most important player, saying the job that he did on Murray. He wasn't their best player though.
He's without a doubt, in my opinion, their best player yesterday and their most important player.
Okay, I want to give Kofi his flowers. I thought
if you want to say Kofi and Coleman 1A, 1B for best player, I would be okay with that, but I'm giving the nod to Coleman just slightly.
I thought Kofi had one of his better games given
I agree.
Given that it was a big game. I mean, first of all, he played 34 minutes. Like, he avoided foul trouble.
It was pretty good defensively too.
He was pretty good defensively. Like, he had 3 blocks. A couple times he over-rotated and like gave up points, like trying to go for a block, but that's fine. I just think offensively, this is the guy we envisioned. He got 17 shots, had 2 assists too. So just offense was going through him, and Iowa did not have an answer for him, whether it was Philip or Bracha or the little zone they ran or trying both Murrays. And then when they did try both Murrays, that's obviously a defensive issue for Kofi, but he was able to slide his feet well laterally. And I thought he didn't get killed as much on the other end as he could kill them on offense. That's supposed to be a mismatch in a chess game. And I think maybe he struggled in the first half. In the second half, he was largely very good on defense. And just a combination of being able to guard a little bit on the perimeter, some good rim protection, dominating the glass, dominating inside, getting 34 minutes out of him. that's what you need. That's what all Americans do in the big moments. And, I think it's crazy because I think that's what we've come to expect from Kofi, but he delivered, and I want
Yeah.
to give him his flowers.
Let's talk a little bit about Kofi's defense, because to me, I think that's something that should be talked about a lot. He got really, really exposed on both ends of the court against Ohio State, and it's one of the worst games he's played in his Illinois career. And I don't want to harp on this too much, but his improvement, or just maybe development or attitude defensively since Illinois lost to Ohio State, has been completely different. It has been completely different. He's had maybe his 2 or 3 best defensive games of the year in the last 3 games, potentially. With you watch what he did against Hunter Dickinson at Michigan. He was pretty good defensively against Penn State and Champaign. And he was pretty good against Iowa, I would say too. He's just been more active. He's moving his feet more. His hands are moving more. Like, yeah, he's still susceptible in ball screens because of the drop coverage that Illinois has to play with him. But he's moving more. He's more active, and just left and right laterally. His feet don't look like they're stuck in cement. There was a couple times where he got stuck on a Murray twin on Sunday night, and I thought he did a good job of like trying to get in the defensive stance. And while he's not great left and right, he's so big, it's still kind of hard to get around him because his stride is so big, right? Like, I can think of one instance in the first half where I think Chris Murray tries to drive and kind of connects with Kofi's body, and they don't call a foul. And he's kind of sitting on the floor, looks up at the official like, I want a foul. And it could have gone either way, but like, that's kind of a good example, in my opinion, of Kofi just kind of showing an ability to at least stay in front just long enough on someone who's an athletic ball handler who can try and expose him off the dribble. That earlier in the season, EJ Liddell, Kyle Young, those type of players really hurt him on February 24th against Ohio State. And let's be honest, I mean, the Murray brothers, especially Keegan, is just as good, if not better than both of those players that Ohio State has when you combine their skill sets. So I was really impressed with what Kofi did defensively. And yeah, he could have been a little bit more efficient. I think he finished like 9 of 17 from the field. It was only 3 of 6 from the free throw line. But, to add in 14 rebounds along with the 21 points, you're going to take that. And he was incredible. And considering the way he struggled in some of Illinois' biggest games, to play that way in the biggest game of his college career to date, I think was pretty impressive.
Yeah, big time players stepped up in the big time moments, which is what you need to win big time games. What else you need to win big time games is kind of like the role players or guys you don't expect just to hit a few shots. And like, it doesn't totally pop out when you look at the box score, but you got a 3 from Luke Goody. He had, in 9 minutes, he had 3 points and 2 rebounds. RJ Melendez only played 8 minutes, but he had his only 3. And like, those are those 6 points right there. Like, you need all those points. And those
stuff just happens when RJ Melendez is on the court. He didn't rebound very well. He got subbed out at one point in the first half because he didn't rebound at all. Didn't even look to box out. Didn't really crash the glass. And Underwood put in Goody, and Goody immediately goes and crashes the glass because that's what Luke Goody does, right? Just a fundamental guy. Brad loves the fundamental guy. But stuff just happens when RJ's on the floor, right? Like, you think about the charge he took in the second half, the 3 he made, like you said, to cut the Iowa lead to 4. I think that made it 51-47 or something like that. Like, stuff just happens when those two guys are on the floor. And if Jacob Grandison isn't going to be able to play for here an extended period of time, or if he's out until the end of the Big Ten tournament, or maybe misses the first game of the NCAA tournament, I think his timeline's pretty up in the air. No one kind of seems to know what exactly it could be at this point. You're going to need Luke Goody and RJ Melendez to come in and hit a shot here, get a shot there, get a couple rebounds here, get another rebound over there in the second half. Like, those are what you're going to need from those two players, I think. And you kind of got that from Iowa, or you kind of got that against Iowa. So
yeah, 100%. Do you have any? I don't really have any more thoughts for this game. Like I said, like
I do. I have a couple.
Okay, because I feel like I watched the game in entirety, but like I can't really process. Like,
I have a couple. One, I find it comically hilarious that since we started breaking down the game, the two people we have not talked about are the two people who were more celebrated than anyone last night, in Trent Frazier and DeMonte Williams. And I realized that Trent didn't have his best game offensively, scoring wise. He was just 1 of 9, had only 1 bucket. It was a layup shortly before halftime. Missed what would have been probably 2 daggers right in the last 2.5, 3 minutes. One was a deep 3, and then another one was a runner with the left hand. But he did have a really good game facilitating wise. I think he finished with 5 assists, 0 turnovers in 38 minutes. That's incredible. He's just turned into a pretty good point guard. But on the defensive side, I thought he was great. I held Jordan Bohannon to 0 points. Funny, I texted you before the game. I said over under 9.5 points for Bohannon. You said under. I think when we played Iowa in December, I think that was, in Iowa City, we played the same game of 10.5 points. And I think you took the over and I took the under. So we got back on the same page with the Trent being Jordan Bohannon's daddy in the backcourt. That was impressive to me what he did defensively. But DeMonte was huge. I thought getting him back in the second half was massive for Illinois. Only played 7 minutes in the first half because he picks up 2 fouls. But to see him come back in the second half, hit a big 3 early in the second half was huge. And then just his defensive presence, I thought was awesome in the second half too. He didn't spend a whole bunch of time on either Murray brother, but he did spend a good amount of time on Connor McCaffrey, and he also switched over to Tony Perkins, someone who gave Illinois a good amount of fits in the second half. And then one other quick thing that I have, I think last night may have been the biggest Andre Curbelo experience night of his career to date. He was really crazy, really erratic at times offensively with some wild turnovers, like the underhand flip to Kofi was just supposed to be an alley-oop. The inbound pass that looked like it hit off the bottom of the backboard. That was really questionable. But then you also has the brilliant plays with the 2 layups, one going behind the back, one with the over the top move, and then kind of into the jelly. But then I thought Curbelo's defense, and this is something I've kind of said for the last week or two, it was that his defense is going to have to be better than his offense if Illinois is really going to be successful. And I thought last night it was. I know he fouled out with about a minute left, but he was pretty good against Tony Perkins last night. And I know Perkins ends up finishing with 17 points on 6 of 13, but Curbelo was on him most of the second half, and that's not when most of his production came.
Yeah, that was the Curbelo experience. That is the way to phrase it. I mean, he did some good, he did some bad. With the way that Plummer goes hot and cold and doesn't really play defense, I think Illinois just needs to live with the Curbelo experience, as scary as that is to say.
Yeah.
And when it's more bad than good, that'll be obviously hurtful for Illinois. But you take a game like that from him where he did some cool things. He did hit a 3. I wish he reined back the jump shooting a little bit. I just don't think it's there for him. And I think there's 1 or 2 times a game he shoots it too early in the shot clock. I'm just that's not the shot you need.
He took one of those deep mid-range 2s early in the shot clock in the second half, and that was a really bad shot selection.
It's you just got to rein those in a bit, but the passing stuff, it's going to be good and bad, and you got to live with it. And I think 10, 6, and 4 being turnovers with 8 missed shots, it's not great, but they needed those buckets at those crucial times. So I think you take it.
Yeah, I think that you'll kind of get it. I mean, 6 assists, 4 turnovers, that is still a positive ratio. He had a couple nice passes. I know 1 or 2 led to a 3 at one point. I think 1 or 2 of them in the first half. I think he was the one who passed it to Melendez for his triple in the second half as well. So overall, Illinois won the Big Ten. We didn't pick it. We didn't think it happened at multiple times during the month of February, but it happened. And it's kind of funny. Whatever point it was in the season, we said the team that wins the Big Ten is going to be the team that loses the least amount of stupid games to stupid opponents. Is there a team who lost a more stupid game than Wisconsin on the last day of the regular season?
No.
I don't think there is either.
No. Illinois losing to Maryland without Kofi is a dumb loss, but it's pretty excusable. And then you got Purdue lost to Indiana, but it was at Indiana. I don't know. It's not that stupid. Wisconsin didn't lose any stupid ones before that. Yeah, that was it. That was it.
That'll cost you. That'll cost you in the Big Ten. Kind of crazy too that we came into the year. You picked Purdue. to win the Big Ten. They finished third. I picked Michigan. I think they end up finishing seventh, I think is where they finished. Yeah, seventh. Or eighth. They actually finished eighth because that's where they're seated and they play Indiana in the quarterfinals or whatever.
I will one
Whatever
more
it
thing
is.
talking about preseason expectations. I did say in the preseason, a random Big Ten team always does do it.
You just thought it would be the other team that colors are red and white.
Yeah, but like this is now the third straight year where a team completely like Wisconsin is still co-Big Ten champions. They're still going to hang up a banner. They're not the one seed, but like they're still Big Ten champions. This is the third straight year where a team completely out of the blue. You had Michigan was like 8th in the preseason last year. Wisconsin was 10th in the preseason this year. I don't know what Wisconsin was 2 years ago when they won it, but they were like 6-6 at one point, or like 5-5 or something.
They got better when their best player left.
Yeah,
Kobe Brown, or
again,
not Kobe,
like
Kobe King. Is that who it was?
Kobe King. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So just next year when we have this conversation, you gotta remember.
Do you want to make a pick on that now?
No, because I have no idea who the random team's gonna be. Like if I said right now it's Iowa, who's to say they aren't like third in the preseason next year? Like, can they get some transfers and Chris Murray becomes Keegan 2.0? Like I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't know what the transfer portal and draft decisions. I don't know what rosters are gonna look like.
All right, so you're not going to put your name out there on it. I see. You're soft. That's my takeaway from this. All right, let's kind of transition into the second half of the show here. We're going to talk about our Big Ten awards ballots. This will come out later in the week. We're going to break down our first team, second team, third team, all Big Ten, our all defensive team, our all freshman team, our player of the year, our defensive player of the year, our freshman of the year, sixth man of the year, and our coach of the year. Some of these things we're going to spend more time on others because I think it's just easier to do that. And a lot of it, I think, is just kind of obvious. But let's kind of go through it. We actually have the exact same first team. I think most people with the vote have this exact same first team. We have Jaden Ivey and Johnny Davis in our backcourt. We have Keegan Murray as kind of our 3. And then we have EJ Liddell at the 4 with Kofi Coburn at the 5. Now, just to clarify, this does not have to be done by position, but both of us kind of like the idea of getting multiple positions on there, but the first team also went by position.
Yeah, no, it's also the 5 best guys, I think, on like 4 of the like it's the 5 best guys on 5 of the 6 top teams. Like again, I just don't really think there's any. Yeah, I just don't think there's any arguments. I think Davis, Murray, Liddell, and Coburn were all like player of the year candidates or legitimate player of the year candidates at some point. You could say Ivy was, but that was kind of dependent on Purdue being this wagon. But he was still the catalyst of a team that finished third and like had a real shot to win the Big Ten. And he's so exciting. Like, yeah, I don't think there's any debate here. I mean, I thought about Hunter Dickinson for like a second.
That was like in the first half of February where I kind of started to think about it for a little bit for him too.
He had some big runs and he was super important to that team, but it's just they were not good enough. And he missed some games.
Yeah,
you know, like
missed the last game of the year.
He had the stomach injury against Ohio State this weekend. He missed the Illinois game, so he missed 2 games. It's just I couldn't do it. I know Keegan Murray missed 1. I don't think Davis missed any. Ivy may miss.
Davis did early in the year against Providence. He didn't play against Providence.
This other thing too. For all Big Ten, like I don't really use non-conference stats because I just think that like your level of non-conference schedule could be way harder. Like, and we'll talk about this when I get to somebody on my second team, but I really only looked at what you did in conference.
Okay.
So, do we want to like go into our bigger awards first, or should we want to go through teams and then awards?
Let's go through teams first.
Okay.
All right.
So the second team, this is where we start to differ.
Yeah.
We do have 3 of the same guys, which I think are fairly obvious.
Yeah. Okay. So my second team, I go with Trent Frazier at point guard. I have Ron Harper Jr. along with Trace Jackson Davis, Hunter Dickinson, and Zach Edey. So I kind of lose my positional thing here with the second team. I give Trent Frazier the nod here on the second team because, in my opinion, he was kind of the best point guard in the Big Ten over the course of the entire season. You differ on this, and I'll let you kind of explain that a little bit as well. But Ron Harper, to me, has to get put on this after what he kind of did, getting Rutgers to finish in the top 4 of the Big Ten, a team that at one point was left for dead after losses to Lafayette and UMass early in the season. So for Rutgers to kind of get all the way back here and finish 4th in the Big Ten is really impressive for me. Trace Jackson Davis, really impressive numbers for the third straight year for Indiana. Another probably disappointing year for the Hoosiers, but stats wise, you got to get him on there. And especially with what he does defensively, I think he has to be on there as well. Talk about Hunter Dickinson and him maybe being deserving of being on the first team. And then Zach Edey, it's hard for him to not be on second team for a lot of the same reasons with Trace Jackson Davis, with the numbers he puts up, with the efficiency levels that he puts up. So that is my second team.
Yeah, agree with Edey, Dickinson, and Jackson Davis. Like, obviously Dickinson and Jackson Davis were on lesser teams, but they were so good. Edey, it is a little weird that Purdue, like for me, was the only team that got two top 10 guys. And they finished third, but like, I mean, he played under 19 minutes a game. He still averaged 14 and 7, shot a ridiculous like 66% from the field. 63% from the free throw line isn't great. And he used 56% in conference, but like for 7-4, like in the amount of times he got fouled, you take that. Like they're just, I know Kofi Coburn is more imposing and Kofi Coburn plays more minutes. I think he wears you out more over the course of 40 minutes. For those like 20 minutes that Zach Edey's in, it's like, dude, what the hell? Like, how do you stop it? And then, so my fourth guy, I agree with Ron Harper as well. Like you said, for them to go into a double bye was pretty crazy. And, he averaged 16 in conference, shot 42% from three. Also, just a lot of big moments and big time shots. The game winner against Purdue, and which, in hindsight, who knows if Purdue doesn't lose that game, where are they in the Big Ten standings? Hit a game winner against Indiana to help get them in the tournament and unfortunately sink Indiana's hopes. But I don't know, late game scenario, Ron Harper, is he the guy of all Big Ten players? He might be the guy I want with the ball in my hand.
Ivy?
I would take Harper over Ivy late game.
You just say that because he hit a three against your favorite team.
He did it. He's good in the clutch. Ivy's kind of.
So was Ivy.
Ivy could be I feel like Ivy's pretty up and down in the clutch. I trust Ron Harper more.
That's fair. It's one of those two, I feel like. Maybe David.
But then, so my fifth guy, and this is probably a little bit surprising because they kind of tailed off as a team towards the end, but I went with Malachi Branham. And this is what I was referring to when we talked about looking at his season totals versus conference totals, because season he only averaged 13 points per game. He was not really utilized in the non-conference. When it got to conference, not many guys were as effective scoring the ball as efficiently as he was. He averaged 16 per game on 52% from the field, 46.8% from three, 80% from the free throw line, rebounded pretty well, was a pretty good defender, just under 2 assists a game. I just think he was clearly one of the 10 best guys. And so I get wanting to reward Illinois with 2 players because they won the league, or if you want to go Brad Davidson and reward Wisconsin too because they won the league. I get it, but I just feel like he was clearly one of the 10 best guys, and he just had significantly better numbers than anyone else that I was considering. So while they tailed off, I usually reward winning, so it's kind of weird I did this, but he just was really good to me.
Yeah, I have Branham on my third team, and I feel more comfortable putting him there than I did my second team, largely because of the fact that Ohio State fell off a lot in the last 2 weeks. And I think that has a lot to do with them just getting tired from how many games they had to play and their COVID makeups because they didn't play for a while. But along with Branham, I had Wisconsin guard Brad Davison, who had one of his best seasons. I would say it was his best season in college. He always seemed to make the really big plays for Wisconsin when they needed him, whether that was knocking down a big shot in a big moment or taking a big charge like Brad Davison always does. So I have Brad Davison on there. I also went with Pete Nance from Northwestern, who numbers wise is better than a guy like Tyler Wall, who I know you kind of like a lot, and someone else that just he was kind of being compared to like a Paul Mulcahy or someone of that kind of nature. I go with Pete Nance just because I like his skill set, and I think his numbers would be a lot better if he was on a better team and maybe didn't have so many high volume guys like Chase Audige and Boo Buie in the backcourt. So I went with Pete Nance. And then I went with Travion Williams at center, which is kind of crazy that a guy who came into the year getting All-American hype finishes on the third team in the Big Ten, but that kind of says a lot about the depth of the front court in the Big Ten. And I came down to one spot on the third team. It is for three guys: Alfonso Plummer, Sasha Stefanovic, and Gio Baker. And I ended up signing with Plummer over Stefanovic because of all of his like shooting numbers are better than Sasha's are. His per 40 minutes, his per 100 possessions are better than Sasha's. And I know those aren't always the most accurate, especially when you consider that Sasha also has another elite guard and Jaden Ivey in that backcourt, but two guys who aren't great defensively. And then I kind of compared him to Gio Baker as Rutgers got hot. And as they get this double bye, Baker obviously has a huge defensive edge over Plummer, but Plummer's just scoring output was a lot more impressive to me than what Baker did. He also played in more games. Baker missed 2 games with, I think, a hamstring injury at one point. One of those games being against Illinois early in the Big Ten season. So I ended up siding with Plummer, and maybe I did that. Maybe you can call me a homer if you want. Maybe I did that because Illinois won the Big Ten, but I think his offensive output is more impressive than what Sasha or Gio Baker did. And I think the defensive difference between Gio Baker and Plummer, well, isn't enough for me to want to put Baker over Plummer.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So I went with like Frazier. I mean, he was on your second team. He's on my third team. Brad Davison for the same reasons you said. Pete Nance was my third guy. Again, just thought he was really. He's one of the best 15 players at least in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
you can make an argument for like just in terms of how good of a basketball player you are. There's a case for him being like the 10th best, like a really good basketball player.
Yeah,
numbers. And then the last 2 spots were really hard, and like I don't feel great about him. My picks, but it's also the 14th and 15th spot. Like I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But I did go with Tyler Wall. Again, they were co-champs, and like his numbers aren't. His numbers aren't great statistically. I think a lot of that though is Wisconsin is like a slowed down system. They play with less possessions, so like they're going to have less numbers. But it just felt like when Wisconsin needed a key rebound or a stop or like a bucket, he just kind of made play. Like the same way Davison did. Like I just felt good about him getting a rebound that he probably shouldn't get, or like some weird ugly post hook that he shouldn't make, like he would make when they needed it. Again, he just felt super important to a team that exceeded expectations. So he went with him. I went with him. And then, yeah, for that last spot, I was between Plummer and Trevion Williams. I looked at Gio Baker, and it's weird I'm doing this because like I don't like rewarding losing, but I went with Jamison Battle on Minnesota. Again, I know they're bad. I know they fell off, but he averaged 17 points per game. I just had too many nitpicks with the other guys. Like Illinois did win the Big Ten, but for as good as Plummer was offensively, his defense was just like, it just wasn't good. And I just didn't, it's like, there's times when Illinois didn't close with him or like they didn't need him on the court. And like, it's hard for me to say you're one of the best 15 guys when they don't need you on the court. Same with Trevion Williams, who like, love hate. Like I thought he was a Big Ten sleeper of the year player candidate, and now maybe I'm frustrated with him because I feel like Purdue should run stuff through Jaden Ivey and they go through him. And I'm like, this isn't the way. But he was the second best big on their team. I just didn't have the impact I thought he would, so I didn't go with him. Gio Baker, just nothing inspired me, so I just took the good stats, bad team guy in Jamison Battle. But like, I'm not tied to that take.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Trevion Williams just kind of got away from who he really was as a player at times this year. While he's a great passer and while he does see a lot of great things, I think a lot of times he tries to do too much passing the ball, kind of like what Andre Curbelo does at times for Illinois offensively. But Trevion also still has an incredible post game, great touch around the rim, and that's why I had him on my third team. Okay, I'll let you go first with your all defensive team.
I think we have the same team. Trent Frazier, Caleb McConnell of Rutgers, Keegan Murray, EJ Liddell, and Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, again, it's not positional, but like Frazier was the best. Like, you wanted to guard someone under like 6'3", especially.
Yeah, for sure.
Trent Frazier, he's locking you up. Caleb McConnell, like a little better, like defensive box plus minus and steals and like really good length. He's kind of the guy I would ask if you wanted to guard someone like 6'5", 6'6". I would throw Caleb McConnell on there. And then Keegan Murray, he honestly wasn't the defensive player I thought he would be coming into the year, but I think it's because he had to carry a lot of the load for them offensively, so he didn't expend as much energy defensively. That being said, he still had like over 2 blocks and like 1.5 steals. Just like he just makes shit happen as like a help guy. Yeah, even you even saw it yesterday, like against Kofi, where it's like he wouldn't be guarding Kofi, but he'd come from the weak side and like perfectly timed blocks. Like Keegan's a great defender. He deserves to be on there. And then Trace Jackson Davis and EJ Liddell, both like 4/5 mans that can guard a little bit on the perimeter, good in ball screen coverage, and they're both great rim protectors. Yeah, it felt fairly obvious to me. I think the guy we both thought about, and we probably think is one of the 5 best defenders in the Big Ten, is Michigan State's Marcus Bingham. But
Yeah.
Tom Izzo, for some reason, didn't play him enough, and the minutes weren't there, and there was other deserving candidates.
Yeah, I think that Bingham is without a doubt one of the 5 best defenders in the Big Ten, and I really wanted to put him on here over Trace Jackson Davis because of his ability to block shots, his ability to guard on the perimeter. His steal numbers are pretty impressive for a guy who plays the 4/5 for Michigan State. But yeah, I just couldn't do it because he plays less than 19 minutes a game, and those minutes got smaller as the season went on in favor of a guy like Marble or Sissoko. So I didn't understand that, and I ended up signing with Trace Jackson Davis as well. All right, let's move to our all freshman team, another area where we were pretty similar. I had Bryce McGowens of Nebraska on there, along with Malachi Branham at Ohio State. I threw Chucky Hepburn on there from Wisconsin after his banked in 3 against Purdue. I took off Max Christie from Michigan State, who at one point probably looked like the runaway Big Ten freshman of the year. For Hepburn, Christie just really struggled down the stretch in the last 2 months, along with just Michigan State in general. And then I also threw Caleb Houston on there, who had a pretty resurgent month of February. And then Musa Diabate, who I know you're not overall super high on as a player at times. And I know I'm higher on him as a player, and I question how good he can be offensively in the NBA in particular, but he was pretty impressive to me in the month of February, especially the last 2 weeks, with his ability to just make some tough shots over players who are bigger than him. His defense is incredible for a kid who's a freshman, his ability to move, keep ball handlers in front. Those are my 5, and I believe yours were pretty similar.
Yeah, no, I actually did the same thing as you did. I flipped Christie for Chucky Hepburn. Just again, Michigan State like just kind of fell off. Were irrelevant to me. Were disappointing to me. Christie himself, just like he maybe had it once every 2 weeks, and he's such a shot making dependent guy that he just would, if he's not making jump shots, he shot sub 40% from the field in conference. And Hepburn, like even when he doesn't make shots, he kind of does like some point guard things and helps them settle in. So yeah, I had the same 5 guys as you. I don't love Diabate, and I think he's overrated, but it like his raw counting stats were good. He put up numbers. Their team wasn't great, but he was clearly one of Michigan's better guys. So yeah, that felt easy to me. Yeah, the Big Ten class, like as good as this Big Ten draft class is, like the freshman class itself was just kind of disappointing. Like Christie wasn't good. People are banking on his upside. Caleb Houston was a huge disappointment. People still kind of bank on the upside, but he wasn't that great. I thought that like Bryce McGowens, again, was kind of who we thought he'd be. Really good counting stats on a bad team. I don't know how important to them he actually was. Brandon was the only guy that really like exceeded my expectations as a freshman. Purdue's Caleb first, like kind of lost his spot to Mason Gillis. Illinois freshmen were good in sparse minutes, but we knew minutes were going to be tough to come by. So not a great freshman group in the Big Ten. So those 5 felt fairly obvious to me.
I think you're looking at a potentially dangerous sophomore group, though, if some of these kids come back. And I think that's something that would be really interesting. I wouldn't advise a Bryce McGowens to go back to Nebraska, considering the issues that they've had. But, Chucky Hepburn is going to be a really good player in the Big Ten for 3-4 years. Like, he's going to really bother a lot of teams. Sam, you've heard this before, but Wisconsin's going to have a really good point guard that's going to annoy the rest of the Big Ten for a long time. I think Caleb Houston coming back to Michigan for a second year could see the type of jump as a player as maybe like a Jaden Ivey did to maybe get up into the lottery, someone who's not there now. I think Musa, he's old for his age and he's still really raw. And I think he's got a decision to make. He could be a first-round pick, but if he comes back, maybe he's able to squeak into the back half of the lottery. I think Branham should go. I think teams are going to bank on his talent, bank on his playmaking ability. He's a potential top 20, top 25 pick. I think you're the expert here. I'll let you talk on it. But yeah, I think you're looking at a potentially dangerous sophomore class if these, 4 or 5 guys decide to come back to school.
Yeah, I don't know. Like McGowan's is going to leave. I just can't see him coming back to Nebraska. Brandon, I'm assuming is going to leave. Christie's the one that's super interesting to me because
I
like
didn't even mention him. If he see, okay, so here's my thing with Christie, and you can agree with this or disagree with this, but I think with Max Christie and much different type of player, much different style of play, but I don't see his draft stock going significantly up or significantly down based off of him getting older compared to being younger. Similar to a guy that we both covered in IO, who was kind of always a, late first round, early second round grade by most people who work in the draft industry, whether that's scouts, whether that's guys like Jeremy Woo, Sam Vecini, whoever it is. He was always kind of in that area. But we've seen him now as a rookie be more developed as a basketball player, be more refined. I think it's led to him being really, really successful in his rookie year with the Bulls. And I think Christie could follow that same kind of plan and kind of always be around a 20 to 35 draft pick. I don't know if that's right. I could be totally off base here. But if that's where he's going to go and he can be more developed and more refined as a player for the NBA as a rookie, and be 2-3 years older, he might be making a better decision in the long term.
Yeah, I'll be super curious to see what he does because like ESPN has him 41 right now. Jeremy Woo on Sports Illustrated on 27. So like he has a chance to go first round. And I think he's definitely gonna test. I think he'll definitely test the waters. And he's someone that to me like could be really good in a 1-on-0 workout, like just like windmilling and like hitting open threes, like that could help him. And maybe those workouts alone get someone to be like, okay, 19th pick, why not Max Christie this year? But if he decides to come back, and this is the same for Caleb Houston or maybe even Diabate, like with the one-time transfer rule, you don't know if these guys are going to come back to their original schools. Like, I don't think Michigan State's a really good fit for Max Christie and like their system and how they play through their guards and their bigs. And like, they don't really let him get any touches. Like, even if Max Christie comes back to school, I'm not sure he's going to come back to Michigan State. Caleb Houston, I thought they put him in a position to succeed, and that was largely on him for not being good. But like, who's to say he isn't frustrated and he wants to go back to Michigan? Like, that's the thing too. If guys don't test with the one-time transfer rule, maybe similar to an Adam Miller next year, who's to say they don't transfer? So, like the offseason transfer market will be interesting.
All right, let's quickly move to player of the year, defensive player of the year, and freshman of the year. I rode with Johnny Davis as my player of the year. And someone was texting me yesterday, actually, saying, does Kofi's game against Iowa last night kind of bump him over Johnny Davis for you? And I said no. And I said no, because I think Wisconsin wins that game if Johnny Davis is able to finish the last 18 minutes of that game. When you look at what Johnny Davis did.
Hey, Cover Girls, introducing new exhibition.
Year, you got to get the ad blocker, man. It's getting bad. Now you're getting ads for Cover Girl. That's a new one. Anyway, when you look at what Johnny Davis did for Wisconsin this year against some of the best opponents, it was really, really impressive. His 37 points on the road at Mackey is probably the most impressive single game performance for any player in college basketball this year. I think you can probably argue. But to average 19.9 points a game in Big Ten play, along with 8.9 rebounds a game and 2.0 assists, and to shoot it over 31%, which is obviously not great, but still impressive. And one of the better defenders, I would say too. He is who I'm signing with player of the year still, despite him getting hurt, despite Wisconsin losing their outright share, and despite Kofi having one of the most dominant, most impressive college basketball seasons of the last 20, 25 years to finish averaging 20 and 10 like he did. It's just unfortunate that Kofi had this kind of competition this year.
Yeah, it's a super weird year where like 3 Big Ten players are like all going to be first team All-Americans. Even a guy like EJ Liddell, who's normal, like EJ Liddell's having normal Big Ten player of the year numbers on both ends. He's not even getting looked at. It just was a really steep year for competition. I also went with Johnny Davis for the same reasons you said. Like, statistically, he didn't like his shooting percentage wasn't great, but he had to carry a huge load. he rebounded like a maniac. He's the best guard rebounder, like arguably in the country. Had some playmaking creation he had to do. And then I think for me, what held me back with Kofi was defense. And Johnny Davis is a good guard defender. He's one of the better guard defenders in the league. Keegan Murray, we talked about, he's going to be Big Ten all defense. Kofi's not even close. Like defensively, you talk about ball screen coverage. That was a huge issue for Illinois. And rim protection from your 7-footer. He averaged under a block a game. Like Johnny Davis almost had as many blocks as him in conference, which is crazy. That's what held me back with him. But yeah, Davis took the team projected to be 10th and took him to tied for first. And he did it with some heroics, some big time shots. Like Chuck Hepburn hit the shot to give them the lead against Purdue, but Davis had the shot before. He had 37 at Mackey. Not that Kofi didn't have big moments. He had 37 against Wisconsin, but this isn't like Johnny and Kofi weren't playing one-on-one, you know? This is not how it works. So I voted Johnny Davis. I would have voted Johnny Davis. But I really thought about Keegan Murray, man. I really, really wanted to do it. Because I think that who was the best college basketball player in the Big Ten?
I would tell you the best college basketball player in the Big Ten is Kofi. I mean, he just averaged 21 and 10 and a half.
I think it's Keegan Murray. In conference, he averaged 22.8 and 8.5.
Yeah, in Big Ten play, Kofi averaged 20 points and 10 and a half rebounds a game. Like, that's an all-time great season in college basketball. Like, he's one of like 5 or 6 players in the last 20 years to do that.
I think Keegan Murray in 22.8 points, 8.5 rebounds, 3.4 steals and blocks. Some passing, like not great, but 53% from the field, 42% from three, was just kind of like quietly lighting it up down the stretch. Is two-way, like, and again, he did it defensively too. Had to, like, him and his brother had to do a lot for when Bohanna was in, like some guards that couldn't really guard. They helped elevate Iowa to almost a double bye. If they win that game yesterday, they get a double bye. Like, I would have done it had they gotten a double bye. I just think that he was the best college basketball player in the conference. And it wasn't like, it's not super sexy. There's nothing like to his game. You're like, whoa, like he doesn't have like poster dunks or like, he just kind of makes shit happen. Like
he's a stat sheet stuffer.
Yeah. It just felt like it was always there. Like, Davis had some bad games, Coburn had some bad games. And I'm not saying Keegan Murray didn't have bad games, but he was under 15 points twice in Big Ten play. Like it just, 3 times. But like you just felt like you were always getting good games from him. You look at the box score and it filled out. So I want to reward Keegan Murray. He had the highest box plus minus by far. I think he leads the country in box plus minus too, if I'm not mistaken. Like he just made shit happen. So I wanted to vote him, but I didn't end up doing it. I went with Davis. Yeah.
All right, let's quickly get through these last couple of things. Defensive player of the year, I went with EJ Liddell. This is an area where we disagreed or just, I guess, maybe didn't see eye to eye. EJ's defensive impact to me is incredibly high with the ability that he has to block shots despite being just 6'6", 6'7", averaged 2.6 blocks on the season, averaged 2.4 in Big Ten play. So pretty impressive there. Less than a steal a game in Big Ten play, but I also don't like looking at those two stats a lot for defensive stats or for picking like defensive stuff. When I just look at what EJ does defensively for Ohio State to guard opposing teams 2 through 4 and at times opposing teams 5s, that's really impressive to me. His ability to just help and move and block shots, his defensive feel to me is something that makes him really, really special. And one of the reasons why I really like him as a player, which we all know.
Yeah, I had no problem. And again, it's not like EJ wasn't on my first team all defense. He was probably the second guy I would have voted for. And I think you're to call me a homer here. I went with Trace Jackson Davis. He anchored the defense in the he anchored by far the best defense in the Big Ten. Like, I know it's not EJ's fault. Ohio State's guards couldn't guard, but Indiana, like, as disastrous as they were, and that is as disastrous as they were, they still finished 20th in defense, and Ohio State was like in the hundreds. He anchored it. Good weak side rim protector, good on the ball, like ball screen coverage stuff. They're pretty similar. I just want the guy that anchored the better defense.
All right, freshman of the year, we both had Malachi Branham. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory considering what we talked about earlier. Sixth man of the year, this was probably the easiest sixth man of the year vote of all time. We each went with Travion Williams. You didn't have him on an all Big Ten team, did you?
No,
I did. So he's obviously on mine,
Yeah.
but that's the easiest vote ever.
I was thinking about Chris Murray. I did.
That's fair.
His numbers weren't good enough.
Yeah.
He didn't really come on to the second part. Like, even when I kind of crapped on Williams earlier, it's just like he still came off the bench and was like just really good. And I can't really say the same about anyone else. So yeah, that was pretty easy.
All right. And coach of the year, to me, this came down to two guys between Greg Gard and Brad Underwood. I sided with Greg Gard over Brad Underwood. Obviously, these are the two coaches whose teams won the Big Ten regular season title. I sided with Gard mostly because of the fact that Wisconsin was picked to finish 10th in the season, or 10th before the season started in the league, and Illinois was picked to finish third and has one of the 2-3 most talented teams. So I sided with Gard as my coach of the year, and I think you did for many of the same reasons.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's like what coach had their team overachieve the most,
or wins the Big Ten.
Yeah, and that was Wisconsin going from 10th to first. But and then the case for Underwood is that, like, yeah, they were projected third and they finished first, so it's not that huge of a leap. But like all the stuff they endured, I mean, just so many injuries, missed games, COVID, concussion stuff. Like, but it's not that they endured stuff in season, but like people forget what Greg Gard went through last offseason with all the former players coming out saying he's a bad coach, it's a bad program, like don't go play for him. You know, I thought they were bad this year. Like his job would be on the line. Like I thought
if they were bad, he would get fired.
Yeah, like he didn't deal with that in season, but like that takes you rallying that locker room and getting those guys to believe. And yeah, so I went with Gard for those reasons.
All right, we see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff. Surprise, surprise. All right, let's get to Pac-12 update. Let's get it quick so we can get to a good buzzer beater because I got to go.
Yeah, I think last week I talked about Arizona winning the Pac-12. So, but we have a Pac-12 bracket, Las Vegas. I wish I was there, but I'm not. So I will say that like Arizona's obviously the favorite. You got UCLA and USC, the other two good teams meeting in the 2-4 matchup. Oregon has fallen apart. They're the 5. Like they need to probably win the Pac-12 tournament to get in.
It's going to be a 3-bid league.
Which is always kind of like, who's counting on Oregon though? Like, you know what I mean? Like, who's to say? I think I am too. But if they won the league, I wouldn't be shocked.
This guy is kind of at Oregon.
I will say the potential matchup I actually think I'm most excited for, like the upset to watch, is Arizona State, Arizona. Arizona State's got to go through Stanford first. But they've been kind of like, they've had talent all year. They just haven't really put it together. They've been kind of sneaky as of late. It's a rivalry game. Arizona's beaten them twice. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, but yeah, Arizona State has won 4 straight games. They're playing their best ball. Like if Arizona State beat Arizona, and Arizona doesn't really need this, like I think they almost have a 1 seed locked up. I'm not like saying they're going to beat them, but like that's what I would watch out for. But I don't think they'll do it, so I'll pick Arizona. I'll pick Arizona over UCLA. I'll go chalk, but I would watch out for Arizona State.
All right, let's get to buzzer beater. I have a good one. So we see Duke against North Carolina Saturday night, all the festivities about Duke and it being Coach K's last game at Cameron Indoor, last game in all likelihood against North Carolina, or at least his last game against North Carolina in the regular season. And I think the general consensus after Duke pounded North Carolina in Chapel Hill earlier this season by about 20 points was that Duke would win by about 3 billion points. That did not happen. Instead, the exact opposite happened. And in fact, North Carolina kind of ran away with it at the end. North Carolina has, I believe, 5 national championships in their history. I think this win against Duke is the 6th biggest win in North Carolina basketball history. When you kind of think about the fact that, first of all, it's Carolina Duke. Second of all, it's at Cameron. But third, and most importantly, it was Coach K's likely like the biggest figure in college basketball history. It was his last home game against his biggest rival, his last home game ever at Cameron. And North Carolina beat them. That is the 6th biggest win in North Carolina basketball history.
don't know enough about the history of North Carolina.
I don't either, but that's the sixth biggest win. Like that's bigger than any Elite Eight win. That's bigger than any semifinal win. And that's bigger than any ACC tournament championship win. That is the sixth biggest win, all things considered.
Yeah, no, that was hilarious.
Thank you.
I like the whole Duke UNC thing. Like, first of all, ESPN scheduling Kansas, Texas right before that, like
A hell of a basketball game.
what? But it's like you knew it was going to be like close and a lot of whistles at the end and reviews. Like you knew damn well that Duke start was getting pushed back, and they wanted to show like K walking through his tunnel of former players, which like none of them were NBA players. Like I know NBA people are busy, but
They
like,
invited all like 200 plus of his former players back, but obviously only so many could come back. I mean, a lot of them are in coaching, but like, yeah. I think about 100 were back.
no NBA, like no current NBA players except Grayson Allen, which I get it. Guys are in season. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Zion couldn't make it back.
Yeah, who knows what he's doing? But like it's literally it's Kansas, Texas in a 1-point game with like a minute left, and ESPN's doing a split screen of K just walking through his tunnel with like the Kansas, Texas 1-point game. And I wanted to see the K stuff, but even I was like, come on, man, like just put the Kansas, Texas game on. Obviously they lose. UNC great, like just did a really good game plan on Paolo.
And now they're ranked.
Not to hype up Hubert Davis, but really good game plan. They didn't sub the entire second half. They went by like 10. You have K's speech after the game where he's like, no, stop talking. Like, everybody quiet. This game was not acceptable. This season was acceptable, but this is not acceptable. Like it was just such a charade. I really enjoyed it. And I actually like Coach K. Like I wanted them to win.
Yeah, I like Coach K too. I wanted them to win.
That was hilarious. My buzzer beater take, it's kind of twofold, but like I think Baylor is better without Jonathan Chamachachua because it has unlocked playing Jeremy Sohan at the 5, which a lot of you probably don't know about Sohan. He was like a 4-star recruit. It's like the 6'9", lengthy, kind of strong guy.
Freak athlete.
With just like really good, like he can play, like has ball skills too. So it's like he will literally be like the center on defense and the point guard on offense. And like other teams don't really know what to do with it yet. They've won 4 straight since Chamachachua went down, including wins over, I mean, TCU has been pretty good. I think he got hurt in the TCU game. They beat Kansas. They beat Texas, like at Texas. Now they might be AP ranked 3rd. I haven't checked the new rankings. They're in contention for a 1 seed. Like I think everyone wrote them off, me included. I kind of wrote them off, but like there's just something about that team and that program where like I think they discovered something without Chamachachua, and they're one of the teams I'm going to seriously consider to win it all.
Baylor's really good. I was really in on them early before the season or before like conference play like really started, or early in conference play when I thought they were the best team in America. I don't know if they have enough depth to get through an NCAA tournament when you're playing 2 games in a 4-day time frame, but we'll see. I like this Baylor team. You can't bet against God Drew. Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode of Inside the Arc. We recorded this on Monday. We're going to be recording another one on Tuesday with a bracketologist expert to kind of break down what Illinois' bracket mindset could kind of look like. We're going to release that on a Wednesday, so you guys can listen to that as you prepare for Illinois' run for a potential Big Ten tournament title for the 2nd consecutive year and find out what their ceiling could be as a seed if they were to win that, or maybe where they could fall and where they're at heading into the tournament. Thank you for listening to Inside the Arc, everyone. I appreciate it. Sim appreciates it. Have a good one.